Well, hey there, welcome back to another episode of Ask Amanda Anything. These are my weekly bite-sized videos where I answer your questions about resumes, cover letters, and job search strategy. And this week I have a question that came in that asked, do I have any recommendations or advice for applying for an NP leadership or administrative position? So this is a great question and a topic that I'd love to open up a little bit more. And I think that, especially with a lot of nurse practitioners graduating from DNP programs, which are usually more of a kind of clinical leadership type of doctoral degree, I think a lot of nurse practitioners are getting interested and exposed to not just the clinical side of things, but the clinical leadership side of things and administration, which I think is a great place for advanced practice nurses. I think that we really need to be represented across the whole spectrum of care. So I love to hear people ask questions about leadership and administrative positions. I will say that typically, depending on the type of role you're applying to, some sort of past leadership experience is necessary. So I think that the best case scenario here is to use your current role, which may be mostly a clinical role, as an opportunity and as a stepping stone to move into a leadership position with your current employer, if you're happy with your current employer. And you can use these same tips to apply for a job with a different employer too, but this is kind of a good strategy to take if you want to move up with your current employer. So a lot of the leadership and administrative experience that one would get before taking on a formal role description as a leader or an admin, most of this is informal leadership opportunities. So what that means is that it's usually kind of unpaid experience that you do in your current role. So what does that really look like? So this could look like joining committees in your current practice, being a part of research or process improvement or quality improvement projects with your current employer, coming up with an idea and organizing some sort of initiative to improve something in the practice or the clinic or the unit that you work on. This could be expressing interest in wanting to shadow or learn more from your current manager or administrator. And it could also look like getting involved with leadership opportunities outside of work, but still related or adjacent to your NP practice. So for example, if you're a member of your state professional organization, maybe you volunteer to be on a committee there or take on some sort of elected role, or maybe you're involved in the coordination of a conference, or you give some sort of clinical presentation, something that's extra, right? So these are all examples of informal leadership opportunities that you can put together on your resume or in a portfolio or kind of in your back pocket to leverage as you decide to move forward with a formal leadership or administrative position. Because, people who are hiring for administrative roles, they're going to want someone who has some sort of working knowledge of the requirements of that role. And usually these are pretty well defined. Like, to be the lead APP of a group, for example, you're going to have certain requirements, certain administrative duties, and they're going to be more likely to choose someone who not only has the clinical experience, but also some evidence that they will be successful with the leadership and the administrative side of things. So basically what I'm saying is that it's difficult to go from a position where you've only worked clinically, you've basically done the bare minimum for your role without any additional involvement, and then use just your clinical skills to leverage to apply for a leadership or an admin role. Versus if you are someone who participates in committees and kind of volunteers for extra things or shows interest in those extra things, then you're going to have more evidence to show that you have an aptitude for leadership or admin. So like I said at the beginning of the video, I think that the best way to do this is with your current employer, if there's room for that professional growth, and if there's not, still taking on these opportunities and keeping track of them in some sort of portfolio in addition to your resume, so that when you see this future administrative or leadership job with a different employer, you can say, okay, well, this was my role. My role was a clinical role. However, these are the things that I did to get more involved in this, leadership or administrative side of healthcare, with the goal of getting a position like this, meaning the position that you are applying for. So I think that those are things that can be really helpful. Certainly if you have a DNP and you've done coursework or clinical hours or a project in some sort of field, that can add to your level of experience and familiarity with certain elements of leadership and administration. So certainly that's something to leverage. But I always think that getting that working hands-on experience, even in this informal way where it's not technically something that you are paid extra for or something that's built into your job description, can be really beneficial, because just the fact that you're seeking out those opportunities can show your aptitude and your interest for being someone who wants more from their job and wants to contribute in a bigger picture to the overall kind of healthcare business and the healthcare hierarchy. So hopefully that has been helpful. Definitely leave any questions or comments below this video for clarification or anything that resonated with you. And until next week, I'll see you on another episode of Ask Amanda Anything.